welcome to Inquiring Minds. My name is Doug and I'm back with another Pen Resurrection Sunday video. I took much of the holiday and New Year season off to tackle the reviews for many of the new models of pens released lately. And although I'm counting this as a Pen Resurrection Sunday, it's a bit of a cheat because this pen needed no resurrecting at all. I found this pen in an antique shop, and even though it is almost 21 years old, this Pelikan Souverain M600 green stripe piston filler was unused. It's what people in the retail business call NOS, or new old stock. I'm convinced that it never contained ink or was even dipped in ink before. So there isn't much restoration needed for this pen, but I did want to show you some of the steps I took to get it writing in perfect condition right now. I want to share with you a new old pen that I purchased. I went antiquing with my wife yesterday to an antique store north of Calgary. That's one of my favorites. And I searched through the various cases where I'd purchased some pens before, and there were a couple of interesting things to look at. But there was one pen that has been there for the last two times I've been there, so about a year and a half. And it's very, very overpriced, but I thought, well, why not see if I can get the price down? And here is the pen in my new 3-pen case. This is a Pelikan M600 in striated green stripe. This pen was priced beyond what I considered reasonable, and certainly not what I was going to pay. But I thought, well, I'll ask the vendor if they will move on the price. So the proprietor of the store called the vendor and asked whether he would accept my price, and he did. I think I still paid about $50 too much, but there's a reason for that, I think. And that's because this pen, when I opened the pen and looked at it closely, I saw no indications that there was ever any ink in this pen. I wanted to bring my light out here to show you how beautifully transparent this barrel is. Look at that. They don't make them like this anymore, folks. I had been on the lookout for another M800 in the Stresemann style M800, because my M800 is my favorite fountain pen in my collection, and it is just perfect for my hand. I generally write with it unposted, although while posted it is still beautiful. I've tried the M1000, which I find a little bit big for my hand, and I was concerned that the M600 would go down a size, might be too small. But that is just beautiful. It might be a little bit narrow here, but back on the barrel it is beautiful, and posted it is exquisite. So I'm going to polish this pen up. This is not a pen resurrection, as this pen never died. In fact, it never really started to live. I really believe that it has never been used. It might have been purchased and never used, or it might be new old stock. I don't know. But I'm going to give it whatever polishing it needs. I don't see any scratches on the pen. I'm going to make sure it's well lubricated, and then I'm going to ink up this pen and give that broad Pelikan 14 karat gold nib a try. I inked the pen and have been writing with it constantly for a little over a week. I want to review the parts and features, show you some size comparisons and measurements, and do a writing sample, as well as disassemble the M600 and show you how to clean and maintain it, as it is a bit different than the screw-in type pistons of the M800 and M1000 Souverains. But first, because this is only my second Pelikan Souverain, I wanted to talk a little bit about the history of the M600. The best place for everything Pelikan pens, in my opinion, is the Pelikan's Perch, a website by Joshua Danley. I'll leave a link to his site in the description, and a link to the video he did for Joost Appelbaum on his top 3 fountain pens. Joshua did a 3-part blog series specifically on the Pelikan M600 model, and I'm going to skip lightly through his wonderful 3-part essay and touch on some highlights here. If you're interested in the in-depth history of this model, please find the links I've provided and give them a read. Have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and make some notes with your Pelikan. The M600 model was introduced by Pelican in 1985, shortly after they introduced the M400. Initially, the M600 was the same size as the M400, but just sported more upscale trim. In 1989, the nib went from being a monotone 14-karat gold to a two-toned gold and rhodium nib. Then in 1990, the nib was changed to an 18-karat gold two-tone. In 1997, the size of the M600 was increased, the top finial was changed from an engraved logo to a painted logo, the trim changed to 2 gold rings at the piston knob, and the nib went back to the two-tone 14-karat gold. The M600 model is now basically divided into 2 styles, the pre-1997 and the post-1997 M600. In 2003, the logo on the top finial changed to have just one chick with the Mama Pelican, and then in 2010, the entire Souverain line changed to have the one chick logo laser etched on a gold top finial. So this is a post-1997 style with a one chick logo. So a post-2003 but pre-2010 M600. As far as I know, the M600 has not changed since 2010. But wait, there's more.
Is that it?
No, there's more.
The entire Souverain line just changed in late 2023, as Pelican announced they would no longer be making the Souverain barrels translucent. So now there are 3 main divisions of the M600. Number 1, pre-1997, a smaller pen, 1 gold ring at the piston knob. 2, post-1997, a larger pen, 2 gold rings at the piston knob. And 3, post-2023, an opaque barrel. The main differences between my M800 and my M600, however, are that the M800 is, yes, larger, has an 18-karat gold nib, and a brass screw-in piston assembly. The M600 has a non-user serviceable friction-fit piston assembly, so don't even try to get it out, you'll just damage your pen. But you can maintain your M600 with some simple techniques, which I will demonstrate now. Now this holds true for the entire M600 and down Souverain line, so the M400, M200, with the exception of the M101N, which has a plastic screw-in piston mechanism. And if you don't wish to unscrew your M800 or M1000 piston mechanism, you can follow these steps as well. Empty your pen of any ink, get a tissue, and unscrew the nib. It's a right-handed threat, so righty-tighty, lefty-loosey applies. If it's stuck, don't force it. Fill and empty the pen with the piston several times, and then soak the nib in a glass of distilled water with a drop of dish soap like Dawn overnight. Then try again. Once you have the nib unit out, you can leave it to soak in pen flush while you work on the rest of the pen. I use an ultrasonic jewelry cleaner with pen flush, as it just takes a few minutes to clean thoroughly. With the top of the pen open, you can flush the barrel with a bulb syringe and pen flush, and then with clear distilled water to get the barrel as clean as possible. Then make sure the piston is all the way back to the back, so that knob is closed. Use a cotton swab to clean out the section and the barrel to make it dry, so get all that water out of there. Then use a tiny amount of silicone grease on the end of a cotton swab, and I emphasize the word tiny. So just pick up enough grease to equal about the size of a grain of rice. I got this silicone grease from the inky nib. Then you're going to slide that swab inside the section and get it down as close to that piston as possible. This being a transparent barrel, you can see through there. And I'm just turning the barrel and pushing the cotton swab up against it. So basically I'm greasing the inside of the barrel right at the piston, and then take the cotton swab out. You only need a small amount because the piston is going to lubricate the inside of the barrel when you move it back and forth. So do this several times, back and forth, and that will distribute the silicone grease on the inside of that barrel. You do not need any silicone grease on the inside of the section or on the nib unit threads. Any silicone grease that gets near your feed will inhibit ink flow. After fully drying out your nib unit, use a jeweler's cloth to polish up the gold just lightly and get out any scratches. Looks beautiful. While you're at it, you can use the jeweler's cloth on the gold plated parts of the pen, the gold ring, the gold cap band, clip, and crown and finial. Then you can screw the nib back into the section. Just give it a slight turn, hand tight is all you need. And your pen is ready for ink. Joshua recommends doing this once every 3 years. I would recommend doing it more often when you switch ink colors. That's blue to red or black or green, etc. Blue to blue should be okay. And also if you're using a particularly saturated ink like Bay State Blue, or inks heavy in shimmer like Gerben Emerald de Chivor, or inks known to get crusty like Diamine, Ancient Copper, Merlot, or Writer's Blood. Those inks tend to gum up a piston and nib. Another time to perform this simple maintenance technique is if the piston ever feels like it's dragging or difficult to move. If it moves smoothly like this, no maintenance is required. If it sticks or drags, that's a telltale sign that things are getting funky inside the barrel.
He slimed me. I feel so funky.
Then you're ready to fill your Pelican. While it's empty, I'm going to test the capacity of the M600. And please forgive the background noises here as I've got the furnace going full blast and my 3 humidifiers going full blast because it's minus 33 degrees Celsius outside. That's cold.
Even to a guy like me, that's cold.
So I'm going to take off the cap, turn on our scale, and drop the pen, and it is 11.2 grams. I press tare and then fill it with water. And now that it's full of water, we'll measure it again. And it is 1.42. So that's 1.42 milliliters of ink. Now let's do it with ink. This is a broad nib, and Pelicans tend to write thicker than standard sizes, and they tend to flow very wet. I found that Pelikan Edelstein inks, like Topaz and Sapphire, tend to be drier inks than, say, Iroshizuku. So I'm going to try Pelikan Edelstein Topaz in this M600, as I think the drier ink will keep the broad nib more under control. And that might actually be why these inks are a little bit drier, to match with their nibs more precisely. The trick to getting a full fill with a piston filler is to fill it once. Do that. I'm going to dip it in the ink, move the piston all the way down and all the way back again, and then turn the nib up, tap it a little bit to get all of that extraneous air up to the top, and then turn that piston back again until you see ink bubbles or ink rising in that feed until it starts to well up. I'm turning this very, very slowly. You can see the ink starting to well up into the feed. See it? Now, before it starts spilling over into my hands, you can see right there it wants to get out. I'm going to turn the pen back down into the ink, push the piston all the way down by opening the knob and then closing it back up again. That'll make sure that as much air is out of that system as possible. Wipe off our nib and we're ready to write. Now let's quickly look at the parts and features of the M600. Overall, the pen is the same shape and proportions as the M800 and M1000, just slightly smaller. From the top, we see the One Chick Pelican painted logo used between 2003 and 2010, and the beveled Pelican 24 karat gold plated crown finial and distinct Pelican beak clip, which works perfectly and has this really nice upturned flare to make it easy to slip into various thicknesses of objects. And here is the top finial of a modern Pelican for comparison. It's laser etched gold with the Pelican and One Chick in negative space. The black resin barrel tapers up to 2 gold cap bands, one thin and one thick. The thick one has Pelican, Souverain, and Germany etched into it. There's a slight step down from the cap to the green striated cellulose acetate barrel. The barrel is translucent so you can see your ink levels and is slightly bulbous in shape as it goes from 1.1 millimeters here next to the threads to 12.5 millimeters in the center and 12.1 millimeters at the end of the barrel. Those tiny fractions of millimeters might sound insignificant, but have a major effect on how this pen feels in the hand. The black resin piston knob is separated from the barrel by 2 gold rings, and the bottom of the knob is a nice dome shape that mirrors the top finial. The cap unscrews with 3/4 of a turn to reveal the black resin tapering barrel section that has a nice round flare with a gold trim ring towards the 5.5 size 14 karat gold two-tone Pelican broad nib and black plastic feed. Let's look more closely at this nib. It has the typical Pelican scroll work, the Pelican logo in gold in a circle in the center, and 14C585 denoting the gold content, and a B for broad. Here is the nib on the M800 by comparison. They are very similar, but the M600 still has the 2-chick logo, whereas the more modern M800 has the 1-chick logo and 18C750 for the 18 karat gold, of course. And you can see the size difference between the roughly 6.5 size of the M800 and the 5.5 size of the M600. The size is determined by the width of the feed at the base, and the inside of the cap shows a black plastic cap liner to seal the nib. The cap posts deeply and securely, making it an exquisitely well-balanced pen. Unposted, the pen is plenty long enough to write with comfortably. A new Pelican M600 currently retails for around $510 US. I won't tell you what I paid for this roughly 20-year-old pen, but it was significantly less than that. Now let's look at some size comparisons. And here is the Pelican M600 green stripe with a Pelican M800 blue stripe, a Leonardo Momento Zero in Prunia, a Delta DV 2.0 Premium, and a Narwhal Schuylkill. These are all piston fillers except for the Momento Zero. Now let's look at them posted. And here they are posted. I think the Pelican Souverain models are some of the best posting fountain pens in the world. The best, in my opinion, are the vintage Parker 45 and Parker 51 fountain pens. The Narwhal posts right on that piston knob, and I don't recommend it, and it makes it hugely long. Now let's look at them unposted. And here they are unposted. The M600 is 14 karat gold, the M800 is 18 karat gold, the Momento Zero is steel, the Delta is 14 karat gold, and the Narwhal is steel. And these are all number 6 size nibs, where the M800 is slightly bigger than number 6, and the M600 is slightly smaller than 6. Now let's look at some measurements, and I'll be back with a writing sample. And we're back with the writing portion of the review. This is Clairefontaine 90 GSM paper, and this is a 2003 to 2010 Pelican M600 green stripe, sometimes called green striated. And it has a 14 karat gold broad nib. Let's check the wetness. As you can see, it is very wet indeed, a real gusher, and it is incredibly smooth. And the ink today is, as I showed you, Pelican Edelstein. There's another E in there. Edelstein, I'm not sure. Topaz. And as predicted, this slightly drier ink is actually controlling this nib a little bit more. I did try Iroshizuku in this pen, but it flowed way too much. This feels a little bit more like it's in control. That's the line variation. Well, the nib is nicely bouncy, and you get some line variation even though it starts out very broad. Let's close up on this nib, and you can see the bounce on that nib. It's beautiful, beautiful. And the line this nib makes is 0.8 millimeters, which makes it a Western Kel Surprise broad, or a Japanese Well, the Japanese don't have anything like this, more like a double or triple broad. On my Richard Binder line width chart, which you can find linked in the description below. And for our quote. And for some reverse writing, it's a lot drier, but it's very, very thin horizontally, thicker vertically, but very smooth. And some quick writing. No issues whatsoever with that feed keeping up. And I know the background noise probably drowns out the sound of that nib on the page, but if it were so silent you could hear a pin drop, you still wouldn't hear any feedback on that nib on that page. It's that smooth. So what are my thoughts about this pen resurrection? Well, it's not really a resurrection. I had seen this Pelikan in the antique shop for more than a year, but the price tag on it kept me from even taking it out to take a look. My New Year's resolution to get myself a second Pelikan urged me to take it out of the plastic wrapper and at least examine it. When I saw what I thought was a pristine new old stock Pelikan, I thought maybe a lowball offer might just work. I mean, what the hell? The worst that could happen would be a straight no, and perhaps even I would get a counter offer which I could deal with. But to my surprise, he said yes. It was still way more than I had expected to spend on an antique pen shopping day, but it was a lot less than I would have paid for a brand new Pelikan. This was not a pen resurrection, but more a pen, say, activation. After at least 20 years of sitting on the shelf, this bird now has a home and will be well cared for and well used. For those of you who are looking to come along on my antique pen search, I had planned on filming during my visit, taking you with me through the magic of video, but unfortunately there was a music stream playing in the background in the antique store, and that would have made my videos useless for copyright reasons on YouTube. And there you have it. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell to get instant notifications whenever a new video is posted. And you can also join as a member of my channel too for only 99 cents a month, and I guarantee I'll answer your comments in the comment section, and you'll get cool emojis, badges, sneak peek unboxing videos, as well as early access to my videos once they're posted. And that just leaves it for me to say thank you for watching. And that's all she wrote.
I made this.